Let's talk about the Voice, because the No campaign wants to argue that it doesn't result in real, practical solutions for the issues plaguing First Nations people. And perhaps that interview you just saw encompasses some of that argument. The government is facing questions at the moment about how the Voice will work exactly. This was question time yesterday from the Shadow Attorney General, who, before he was in this role, helped shape the Voice. This is what he had to say.
The proposed Voice to Parliament will have a constitutional function of making representations to the executive government on matters relating to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. Minister, the Reserve Bank of Australia is part of the executive government, and interest rates affect Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples as they do all Australians. Will the Reserve Bank need to consult with the Voice before making a decision on interest rates?
The last time I looked, the Reserve Bank of Australia was independent.
Yeah, I'm not sure the RBA is part of executive government. Indigenous Voice Referendum Working Group member Thomas Mayo joins me now. Thomas, I play that because it just kind of encapsulates how ridiculous this debate is getting, and that somehow there needs to be answers on, every tiny possibility that may or may not come into fruition. How damaging is this for the Yes campaign?
Well, I'm sitting here and listening to that. It's a mixture of emotions, both sad and angry, with the previous report. We see Julian Leeser and the Liberal Party playing political games with Indigenous lives again. I mean, there is a litany of failed policy and harmful laws, discrimination that ultimately leads to the great problems that we have in our communities today. And to listen to a person who is both a lawyer and a politician asking such a ridiculous question, clearly playing politics with what is direly needed, not just for Indigenous people, but for all of our communities, for the entire country to start to get these decisions right, is extremely disappointing. And it needs to stop. We need to get on with the business of giving Indigenous people a voice so that they can start to fix these problems. There's no doubt that we love our children, that we want to see the social issues healed. And we've said in a national consensus where we put our minds together, when we considered the lessons of the past, and we said this is the way that we can resolve the issue, and it'll take generations, but it is a key to closing the gap and stopping these issues in our communities.
The Scare campaign is on steroids at the moment, I would say. Was it particularly concerning to you that we saw that question from the Shadow Attorney General, given his history in this area?
Yeah, it is really concerning. I think it indicates that the Liberals aren't serious about this. It indicates that a majority of the party, it seems, is never going to come this way, especially when you hear such ridiculous comments from Julian Leeser, who you'd think would bring some balance to this and would, ask some decent questions, engage properly in this debate. It is such a disappointment. I think that ultimately they're just trying to damage the campaign. They're trying to, just play politics with this rather than just get on with what is important to this country.
Yeah. This, again, the suggestion that the RBA would have to consult the Voice before making interest rate decisions. That was the inference there. I mean, it's just absolutely ludicrous, to be honest. And the RBA isn't part of executive government. But, on the other hand, if I can put this to you and play devil's advocate, Noel Pearson points out that every single issue, tax, energy, climate, affects Indigenous people. So where do you see the line in where the consultation starts and ends?
Well, of course, Indigenous people are going to focus on what is most important to them. And what is important to us is health and education, to helping our kids get out, to help us break these cycles of social dysfunction. Those are going to be the priorities. You see, the Voice is going to be a democratically chosen representative body. And of course, the people in those communities are going to be speaking or going to be expecting their representatives to speak about those issues that are most important about them. So it is a nonsense to say that the Voice is going to comment on things that are not obviously priorities for Indigenous people. Again, we're going to focus on those things that improve our lives. And, like any representative body or any organisation, you've only got so much capacity to do things. You only have so much time. You only have so much resources. Of course, we're going to focus on those things that are most important to us, as I said.
Yeah, absolutely. So a bit of common sense we need to bring to the debate. But, before a referendum and the need in your mind, to get this up and to get this passed, do things need to change in the committee stage? I spoke to Anne Toomey yesterday. She says she broadly more than broadly supports the wording that the referendum group has come up with and was presented by government, but perhaps there needs to be a further explanation in the explanatory memorandum. Is that something that you would be okay with?
Yeah, I think all of those, all of those steps are very important in how we communicate with the Australian people. But you see, the simple thing is this, that we're just enshrining the principle that First Peoples should be recognised in this country for our distinct and proud culture and heritage that we can all share. And that it's through a voice so that we can simply make representations, not force the government to do anything, but make representations. Again, not to hold the government up, but to make sure that we're involved in the process of decision making so that things improve in our communities. And it really is that simple. The provision that we announced on Thursday, I was so excited on Thursday and emotional because we have delivered to the Australian people as clear as in black and white what this is about. And the Parliament ultimately decides the composition, powers, functions and procedures of the Voice. Leeser knows that, Dutton knows that. There's nothing to be afraid of here. There's everything to gain, though, in improving the lives of Indigenous people and our broader communities, to stop crime. We really need a voice guiding the policy decisions, and it's those failures over the years that have led to all of the turmoil that we've seen.
Just one final question here. Would you be okay with, and I don't know whether Peter Dutton's going to do this, but do you think, because it's such a vexed issue on the Conservative side of politics, we can't ignore the fact that the Nationals are against it, whether right or wrong, do you think it would be an acceptable pathway forward for Peter Dutton to give his party a conscience vote on the issue?
Well, I hope at the very least that Dutton gives a conscience vote to his party. But I hope in the coming weeks, I understand they're going to take some weeks before they make a decision, that they really reconsider their position. And I want the Australian people in these politicians' electorates to write to them and say it's time to get on with this. Stop playing politics with Indigenous lives, because it's not only about Indigenous lives, it's about our communities, how they're affected, and who we are as Australians. And to share over 60,000 years of continuous culture would be a wonderful thing. And I hope that they stop playing politics with this and just get behind this and help the Australian people to understand that this is a wonderful, important step for our country that we can all be proud of.
Thanks so much for your time, Thomas. I really appreciate it. We'll speak soon.
Thank you, Laura.